Morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us. In January of this year, Salt Lake City and our state and federal law enforcement colleagues announced a new and multifaceted effort to reduce crime in the capital city's neighborhoods. I'm pleased to announce that by working together with Chief Brown, Acting U.S. Attorney Andrea Martinez, Utah Public Safety Commissioner Jess Anderson, U.S. Marshal Matt Harris, and the hundreds of officers who serve our respective agencies, that this targeted approach is working. With this effort, when this effort was announced at the beginning of the year, we were experiencing an uptick in violent and property crimes in Salt Lake City. We were hearing from residents whose neighborhoods and businesses were struggling due to criminal activity being committed by apex criminals preying upon those who have been historically disadvantaged. Today, thanks to the partnerships we've formed, guns and hard drugs have been seized, and over 90 individuals have been charged with serious federal crimes, which is interrupting the churn of arrests and early releases that was so prevalent only a few months ago. Our law enforcement colleagues are going to provide you with more of the details and specifics about the results we've achieved and how we've gotten here. But before I turn the time over to them, I want to thank the officers and the prosecutors, the boots on the ground, whose bravery and focus and commitment have made this possible. Every city's fundamental job is to ensure that its businesses, its residents, and its visitors are safe. While we still have work to do, and this work is not ending with this press conference today, make no mistake that together we are sending a clear message that crime is not welcome in our capital city. Next, you'll hear from Salt Lake City Police Chief Mike Brown, followed by Acting U.S. Attorney Andrea Martinez, then ATF Assistant Special Agent in Charge Brad Engelbert, Commissioner Jess Anderson, and then U.S. Marshal Matt Harris. Chief Brown.
Good morning, and thank you for being here. January 5th of this year, we stood in this very same room and talked about violent crime, how in 2020 we had seen a spike of almost 21%. We stood and said that's unacceptable in Salt Lake City. And I want to tell you, this team, led by Mayor Mendenhall, Mayor, thank you for your support and leadership, but every one of these partners have stood fast, we've stood together, and we've collaborated on focusing on those apex criminals in Salt Lake City. Jess, Andrea, Matt, Brad, thank you to you and your teams. John Huber is not here, but Andrea, you haven't missed a beat. Thank you. Your team's been fantastic. One of the things that we want to focus on are guns. Guns in our community. We have seized, in the 5 months that this task force has been put together, 84 guns. 22 of those guns, are stolen. Criminals that have guns on the street commit horrific crimes, aggravated assaults, shootings, homicides. We have taken those guns off the street, but more importantly, we've taken those individuals off the street as well. And in the wake of that effort, the prevention in law enforcement is always really hard to measure. Who knows how many additional crimes we have prevented? We talk about 21%. That was 287 more victims. How many victims have we prevented from being assaulted or in an aggravated situation? Now, who are these people that we're arresting? Andrea will go over this a little bit more, but 16 of these defendants had gang affiliations. 8 had current or prior DV convictions. But this is an interesting number. 29 of these individuals were on parole or probation. 29. That means they had rules and conditions they should be following. I'm happy to say that we have obliged them with a process and hopefully a place where they can follow those rules, not within our community. Salt Lake City is committed to this process. We stand before you today as leaders of the different agencies and a city, but I have to give a big thanks and a shout out to those that are working 24/7. The officers, the detectives, the prosecutors, the agents. They're all working hand in hand to better serve the communities of Salt Lake City. And as I said on January 5th, if you commit crime in Salt Lake City, we, this team, will do everything in our power to hold you accountable. We promise. Thank you.
First, thank you, Mayor Mendenhall, Chief Brown, for allowing us the opportunity to appear here today and report the success that we've been having so far with this initiative. And I also want to thank our partners, Commissioner Anderson and my federal partners as well, Brad Engelbert, who's the Assistant Special Agent in charge of the ATF, and also our United States Marshal, Matt Harris, just to name a few. We are all up here with a common mission, and that is to increase the safety of our citizens and the safety of those who come and visit our great state and the capital of our city. I am honored to be a part of this group, committed to public service, and I'm proud of what we have accomplished so far. It has taken a village, if you will. You often hear that term, that it takes a village to accomplish things. And certainly in this case, it also takes a village in law enforcement and with our prosecutors and with the law enforcement on the ground. And for that, I am grateful that we are able to come together and we're able to work together to solve the issues that we're having with crime in our community. Public safety is our paramount objective. The absence of safety in our communities, it negatively impacts our daily living, and it negatively impacts the tourism to our state and to our city. And we do not want that. We want to get ahead of this problem. And thankfully, we had good insight back at the end of last year to come together as a group. And part of that was with the Pioneer Park Coalition to form this initiative and take the first steps we can. And as Mayor Mendenhall mentioned, we will continue to do this great work. There are certainly others that are not up here today that we are very thankful for being partners in our mission. Adult Probation and Parole, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, Homeland Security, the Unified Police, and the Drug Enforcement Agency, just to name a few. And we're very grateful for all of their partnerships as well. You may know that just yesterday, AG Merrick Garland announced a new Department of Justice effort to help protect our communities from the recent increase of major crimes. And we will continue. We are thankful that we had already begun in that process, and we will continue with the department's mission and with our objective at the United States Attorney's Office. And I would also be remiss if I did not thank my own prosecutors and the leaders of this initiative in my office, who work day in and day out with our officers to bring justice in our community. As we've stated before, our goal is to reduce violent crime by bringing accountability to the worst offenders in Salt Lake City and to bring meaningful justice to those that have abused the state criminal justice system. And we believe that almost 100 defendants prosecuted federally as a result of this partnership are representative of all of these things. We still have much to accomplish, and we will accomplish, but I look forward to the important work that each and every one of our partners in our office will do together in this mission. I am thankful for the tools that we have in the Justice Department, and those tools being the criminal statutes that we have on firearm offenses and drug trafficking crimes, so that we may hold those accountable who are bringing crime to our cities that is not welcome. So thank you again to all of our partners and to the United States Attorney's Office, all the Assistant United States Attorneys who are leading in this effort. Thank you. One other thing I want to cover and is the statistics. We have charged, now this is you're going to see this graphic. These are not updated numbers because we had numbers come in as recent as yesterday. These are not going to be the accurate numbers. So I'm going to tell you the accurate numbers. But so that you know, we have charged 97 defendants. And of those charges, we have 50 who have been charged with illegally possessing a firearm. We have 22 who have been charged with drug trafficking offenses. We have 2 who've been charged with robbery offenses. And we have 13 that have a myriad of other crimes that have also been charged. Now, in this, we have also seized 84 guns, which we are very pleased to have taken all of those guns off of the streets to help increase the safety of our community.
Great.
Okay, thank you very much.
Morning. First of all, I'd like to thank the mayor, U.S. Attorney, Commissioner, Chief, and Marshal Harris for partnering in this endeavor. This is law enforcement at its best. Collaborative effort, bringing to bear all of the options available to us to take violent offenders off the street. We know that the vast majority of violent crime in any community is committed by a select few individuals. This effort allows us to target those individuals and take them off the street. ATF's proud to partner with all the individuals that are up here and those that the U.S. Attorney mentioned, APMP, Unified PD, FBI, HSI, and others. I don't think we can overstate 84 guns being taken off the streets of Salt Lake City. That's 84 guns that can no longer be used to commit crime in this community, that cannot be used in shootings, that cannot be used in homicides. That's a massive number, and that's going to make this community safer. ATF has been partnering with state, local, and tribal partners for nearly 20 years under the Project Safe Neighborhood banner, which is a stalwart of the Department of Justice's efforts in reducing violent crime and making communities safer. And although we are employed by the federal government, we live and operate and work in this community. Our kids go to school in these communities. So it's as important to us that we make these communities safe as it is to the chief, to the mayor, and to everyone else. We will continue this endeavor. We will continue pulling guns off the street. We will continue prosecuting to the full extent any individual that violates federal law. And with partnership with the U.S. Attorney's Office, we are having great results. Thank you.
Mayor Mendenhall and Chief Brown, it's a great honor for me to be here today with you and to represent this today as we come together with the results of what the last 5 months have been, but as well as with our federal partners. We're grateful for this. As a Department of Public Safety, we are proud to stand with all of our local police departments as we help reduce violent and other crime. That means providing mutual aid when necessary. Sometimes that means supporting Salt Lake City Police with our public protection unit, and other times it means using technology to do analysis that we couldn't do otherwise. The National Integrated Ballistics Information Network, or otherwise known as NIBIN, is a program that was first implemented in Utah beginning in August of 2017. NIBIN compares ballistic evidence collected from crime scenes and recovered firearms. This allows us to analyze the unique signature of a shell casing that is fired from a gun. Each firearm makes a unique imprint on a casing. This type of analysis lets us determine if a certain firearm is being used in multiple crimes. In 2018, as we teamed up with the U.S. Attorney's Office and the ATF to create the Crime Gun Intelligence Center with the goal of connecting the dots to provide actionable investigation leads so law enforcement can arrest suspects before they commit additional shootings. The program has expanded to include 45 participating Utah agencies. To give you a little bit of impact of what Salt Lake City has been able to do, since the beginning of 2020, Salt Lake City Police Department has submitted 687 pieces of evidence. That's 404 bullet casings and 283 firearms to the Utah State Crime Lab for NIBIN comparison. Of those entries, 73 were linked to other cases. That's 11%. Providing valuable lead information for detectives to use in their investigations. Salt Lake City represents about 18% of all NIBIN submissions and about 16% of all NIBIN-linked cases. That makes them our biggest customer within the investigation realm of NIBIN. The Department of Public Safety and Salt Lake City Police Department hold bi-weekly coordination meetings to ensure NIBIN-linked cases are thoroughly investigated. This is a little bit of an insight as to how we are so successful in bringing these cases to justice. And with that, we are so grateful for the partners from all levels of government who continue to work on the Project Safe Neighborhood as well as the NIBIN network. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Matt Harris. I'm the United States Marshal, the District of Utah. In Utah, the United States Marshal Service oversees the VFAS, the Violent Fugitive Apprehension Strike Team, which is comprised of 28 agencies across the state. Our role in this initiative was twofold. One is to continue to go after violent fugitives in our community, and the second is, if those fugitives have weapons, to refer them to the U.S. Attorney's Office through ATF. It's a twofold operation. Since the beginning of 2021, the task force has arrested 41 violent fugitives in the city of Salt Lake. Many of those have active warrants throughout the state. So these are not just fugitives and residents of Salt Lake. They're also residents of other locations that are hiding in Salt Lake. This includes persons wanted for homicide, rape, attempted murder, drive-by shootings, armed robbery. The average number of times one of our fugitives have been arrested that were from Salt Lake, that were arrested in Salt Lake, was 9.7 times. That tells us that these are violent criminals, they're the most violent in our community, and we are selecting the right targets for apprehension. While this is a great initiative, and the results are awesome, and it's very promising, now's not the time to take our foot off the gas, and we need to continue moving forward. Because what we do know is that at times like this, we arrest many violent criminals, and sometimes they get out, and sometimes they create the victimization over and over again. Just yesterday, the Attorney General of the United States, as the acting U.S. Attorney mentioned, put out a memo talking about combating violent crime in our community. And luckily, as we were already doing that. Twofold approach, right? Also is building relationships in our community. So that's important. It's not just about the enforcement, it's about the relationship building. And even us on the federal level that don't have the intricate involvement that the local folks do have, that's still a priority. And using the roadmap that the AG laid moving forward, I continue to believe that the best way to combat violent crime in our community is to do it collectively through a task force environment, to target those active criminals who have warrants. So what we do know, what research shows us, peer-reviewed literature shows us, is that a small amount of criminals commit a large percentage of crimes. I want to thank everyone for this initiative, Mayor for having me, Chief, Commissioner Anderson, Acting U.S. Attorney Martinez, but I also want to give a shout out to ATF because ATF is a heavy lifter on the federal side of this operation. Our cases go to ATF through the U.S. Attorney's Office, and those guys and their task force officers that work on their team are really doing the lion's share of this work, and really am honored to be part of this. Thank you.
We'll take questions.
So you said in 2020 crime was up 21%. Where do we stand now with that number?
Yeah, so violent crime was up 21%, property crime was up just over 24%. And this, we know that we're doing incremental work here, but it is going down. Violent crime, with our most recent stats, was down, is still up, but it's at 16.4%. And property crime came from 24.2% down to 20.1%. We've also seen a decrease in a number of other crimes. Business robberies are down 11.6% compared to that same period in 2020, and they're actually down 32, almost 33% over the 5-year average for business robberies. Larceny, other than vehicle burglaries, is down 3.4% compared to that same period in 2020, and it's down 23% if compared to the 5-year average. But it's still, this is 4.5 months, which is, it's exciting that we're getting this kind of movement on it. We know that it's an incremental work that we're doing here, but all of the numbers are going in the right direction.
Do you know how many of the 97 defendants have been arrested more than once?
One of these people, yes.
Charged or convicted?
To that churn
Maybe,
the
I know.
system. Actually, don't reach and get it.
Yeah. I'm gonna see if our chart reflects accurately on that. If not, we can get that statistic for you, but, yeah, as was mentioned earlier, by, one of our speakers here today, that we've had 29 who are on probation and parole, but the number of exact repeat arrests, I don't have that number in front of me.
And do you know of, you said 84 guns seized, 22 were stolen. Where did the others come from? Do you know? I mean, 62 guns weren't bought legally to commit crimes, were they?
No, I don't have that information on where the others would have come from. Likely, so the stolen guns are those that we were able to charge. The others, they were able to get in the criminals' hands one way or the other, whether they got them from somebody else in the community, but they were not possessing them legally.
And not all stolen guns are reported.
That's right, and not all stolen guns are reported, or at times you have it's untraceable to know whether it's been a stolen firearm.
I have a question. So I saw this week it was released that Salt Lake City Police Department is understaffed by 77 officers, and you say you went down from 5% from 21% to 16%, 24% to 20% for property theft. Do you think you could decrease these crimes more if you had more officers?
You want to? I'll start.
You start.
And those numbers are in fluctuation a little bit, and Chief can give you some more details about that if you'd like. But certainly we need more officers. We know we do. And a capital city deals with more crime and thousands more calls for service than any other department in the state of Utah. So our ability to safely police and enforce the laws in our capital city is fundamental to us. Having the resources to do that is absolutely a concern for us at this time, and we're actively working on it, but I'll let Chief answer some more.
Thank you, Mayor. We are down 45 right now. The problem is we have 32 that are in training in an academy. They're not on the street. But the more officers we have out and about on the street, not going call to call to call, I mean, we call it the star pattern. Mayor's talked about the star pattern. The more time they can spend in their beats, the more proactive they can be, the more that people see them. So yes, the more officers we have, the more impact we'll have on crime, because believe it or not, criminals don't like to see police officers out on the street.
And then Chief, I have another question too. Can you kind of just talk about, playing off of that, how much policing has changed in Salt Lake even from a year ago when we had those riots on May 30th?
Yeah, 2020 has been quite a year. And with everything that has happened, I mean, we've talked about the 300 protests, the incidents of civil unrest that we've had to monitor, to facilitate. That took a lot of resources off the street. There have been officers that have retired, resigned, left the department. And so right now, we are looking at ways that we can increase our footprint in patrol, because our number one goal, or our number one responsibility, is to answer those calls for service, 911, and those that need our help, and we've got to be able to do that. So we're looking at some of the specialty squads to put them back to patrol so that we can have the impact that we're talking about right now.
I would like to follow up on that a little bit. This has been, we've never had this level of reform take place in our police department. And this department is 170, thank you, just turned 170 this year, 170 years old. The reforms that we put in place, we are seeing results on those reforms. The use of force was down 15% over the last 6 months compared to the 6 months prior to that. And we've seen incidents that have been safely de-escalated and resolved that I think very clearly could have been handled differently in the past. And we've had officers who I reach out to after reading a watch log tell me this incident went this way because of this training that we recently had around dealing with mental health crisis situations, dealing with de-escalation in more ways. So we're seeing the results, and I think percentages and data are a piece of it. It's good, and we're going to keep tracking that, but we're seeing it in the day-to-day events that happen in Salt Lake City with our residents.